First Spin. Welcome to First Spin, a show where I learn how to use the parallax propeller without having any prior programming experience. And rather than do this on my own, I have enlisted the illustrious help of two experts.
My help is more illustrious than Roy's help.
Yeah, I don't want my help to be illustrious.
Yeah.
What? Why
That
not?
sounds weird.
Illustrious is like glorious. It's like
Because I tell you what,
shining.
I had to help her this week, and Roy wasn't around, and it was illustrious. I had to illustrate all kinds of answers for her.
Wow.
Is that how English works?
No,
Sure.
not quite.
Hi guys, how's it going?
So Addie got mad at me this weekend, or
I
was
always
it this
get,
weekend?
you know,
I thought she was gonna
coding-
bite me when I was trying to
coding
help her
is a
fix
very
her.
emotional process.
For some people, evidently, she almost
Okay.
Not
bit
for
me.
me.
I almost lost a finger.
No, I've seen coders get angry. And, I
don't get angry.
First-
I get spin.
First, let me just say, I love spin. I do. But when I say less than and equals to, and I make that less than and equals to sign, that should mean less than and equals to. Okay? In spin, it's
No,
that's completely freaking backwards. So you have to put equals
it's a
to
less. It's when
and
you
less
do
than.
less. I know when you do less than and equals to, what it's actually doing is the less than operation, and then
Mhm.
assigning the result of that to
To
the
you,
less.
Yeah.
Do you see me
Whereas,
shaking my
because
head?
that's the way assignment in spin. We talked about this a long time ago.
I
Yeah,
know
it's
that.
been a
Equal
while.
sign is on that side,
I
the
know.
right
It's an
hand side.
assignment
That
operator.
equals assignment.
Well, and when I wrote it in my
Now,
code,
it may be annoying because in most languages it's the other,
Other way around.
But the fact that you can assign that operation directly into a variable is very, very handy.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
You can
it's
make
also
good use of that.
it's also kind of cool that spin is uniform in that every operator has the assignment like that. In fact, the only ones that don't are the address operators, which are kind of special.
So
Yeah.
spin may be different
Well-
than every other language, but it is very uniform across its own front there.
And that's okay. That's okay. I'm
Yeah.
cool with that because that is obviously
Just
the
think
only language
like
I
colon
know.
equals, and you can remember the order that all the assignment operators go in.
No.
So colon equals?
Assignment. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
if
When
the
it's an
equal sign is
assignment,
on
and-
that
Sure.
side, it's an assignment operator in
Sure.
spin.
Sure.
And then just think of if you're doing comparison and there's an equal sign, the equals goes first. So
right.
equal to or greater than instead of greater than or equal
Right.
to.
So, I had thought, I was like, oh, I'll look up the manual at some point, but pulling up the manual and having to scroll to see where I could find it, I was like, I'll just write the code and we'll have it work. I must have changed my code 10 different times because it wasn't working properly. And I was like, why is this?
One thing
And then
that
we
I think would
changed
help
it
you a lot if is
to
if
equal
you
to
got
and
into
less
the
than.
habit of adding little hooks in your code along each step,
Hooks.
so that places where you can take a peek inside and see what the variable is doing at that point, right?
Oh,
You've got like serial terminal,
sure,
right? Hook
yeah.
up serial terminal and just
Yeah.
have it spit out, this little debug
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then you go through each one of the steps and move your little,
Well, that's
spit
what I
out
ended up
thing,
having to do.
and you'll find it eventually.
That's-
You'll
yeah.
always find it that way.
That's what I ended up having to do to realize that it wasn't comparing properly.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
Sometimes it just requires asking somebody else to take a look, though.
yeah.
When you were doing your case statement thing,
Well, and we'll get to that.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But first, so first complaints out the way, right? There's my complaint for the week. But we do have two contests actually to talk about to kind of give you a teaser on. Well, one of them is already, like out in the open, so that's fine. Hack the Halls. It is, let's see, it's on the Parallax discussion forums, and it says, you are cordially invited to hack the halls. Post your best holiday hack in this forum, and you will be eligible to win $100, $200, or $300 in Parallax store credit. OMG.
Lots of goodies.
If you
Lots
get
of
like,
goodies.
yeah, lots of goodies.
And they got cool stuff like the new 8x8 RGB matrix module that has a propeller on there to drive 8x8 RGB LEDs.
That's pretty cool. What would you do with that?
Well, I have a whole bunch of them, and you can make a big display out of them.
I see. Yeah.
I'm gonna put them in my pinball machines and have
Oh,
cool.
cool. That's a good
I'm
idea.
gonna have
That's Roy's
cool.
answer to everything. I'm gonna put it in my pinball machine.
I'm gonna put it like under the playfield, like so that you could see through like a square on the
Mm-hmm.
playfield, and then it'll be like in front of a target that you have to hit, and the display will change depending on what you're supposed to like. If you hit the target, you'll get this, and it'll actually say it on there in different colors and all that,
Cool.
and
So
have little animations and whatnot.
very cool. So this says please submit your holiday hack by Thursday, December 20th. Let me see. Today is going to be the 4th. So
Well, it
you
will
have a
be the
couple
4th
weeks.
when the show airs.
I know, that's why I say it's going to be the 4th.
Time traveling Addy.
Time travel, that's right. I'm just smarter. Okay,
Yeah.
so please submit your holiday hack by Thursday, December 20th. Winners will be announced the next day on the 21st. Contest rules, of course, not open to Parallax employees and not open to projects that have already won other Parallax contests. So,
That pretty much eliminates me.
really? I don't know. Like, should I put something in?
Well, you could always ask.
Every time I do a project that's worth submitting to anything, it's project of the week, and I consider that a parallax competition. So
No, those aren't competitions.
I
It's
said
when they
I
have
consider it a competition. You
Yeah,
hear
but
that,
you don't-
everyone out there?
You're
I'm
not
winning.
the one that.
I'm
Game
winning.
You're not
on.
the one
Yeah.
that decides.
I don't
You're not the
know.
one
I
that
don't
gets
know.
to decide what's a
OBC.
contest and what's not. Parallax is.
OBC wins quite a few.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff's probably won a lot more projects of the week than I have.
That's true.
Yeah, I haven't won any as far as I know.
That's because you're not very good, Roy.
But guess. But
What kind
I
of
am a
expert are
star-
you,
I am
man?
a star performer, though.
Gotta
so-
represent.
All right.
Hear that? You hear that, Whisker?
What's
I'm
that?
a star performer.
You're a
Yes.
I have
star performer.
Permanent residence on their webpage.
Yes.
So.
Okay, guys, focus. And so that's the first competition. The second competition is one that we are going to give you a teaser on. So, it's called the.
Are we even allowed to say what it's
Are
called
we allowed
yet?
to say what it's
I
called?
don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, it is
That's-
the
mm,
2013 national contest, I think, by Micromedic.
the Micromedic is the contest name, I think.
Oh, I see. Micromedic is the contest name. Okay, 2013 national contest. It's an open source health and medical simulation innovation sort of thing. And it's in conjunction with Parallax, of course, with the U.S. Army Telemedicine and Advanced Technology Research Center, as well as the Carnegie Mellon Entertainment Technology Center.
Yeah.
So, a couple of really big peoples. And, so think microcontrollers and
Right.
medical. And
So like as an example, Parallax
yeah.
recently added the heart monitor to their
yes.
the heart monitor
Which I've
sensor
played- we've
board,
played
right?
with.
Which
Yes.
you have one of.
Yep.
Well, like that will probably factor into some of the contest entries because they're making a kit that they'll be delivering to people.
If only I knew a nurse that knew how to use microcontrollers.
And they're
Hmm.
gonna have some other things in there like pulse sensors and
Super cool.
breath tubes and just we don't really know all the details yet because they're still working
Hey,
it
does
out.
this mean that we can test to see if Addie's drunk during the show?
It's not
never
a
drunk during the
breathalyzer; it's
show.
just a breath measure,
Oh, a breath
a
measurer.
flow meter or
Flow
something
meter.
like that.
Sure.
So.
Can I steal that and use it to create some propeller-powered bagpipes?
Maybe.
I don't know how bagpipes would help in like
medical
situations.
Well, I'm not interested in medicine. I am interested in propeller-powered bagpipes. No,
Yeah, you
So
turn everything into music,
That is-
Whisker.
I know,
whereas
it's
this is
totally
all
a thing
about
with
All
me.
right.
medical
So-
stuff.
That is ridiculous, Whisker.
So what's the basic idea here? I don't know how much we're allowed to say.
I think
Yeah,
I think that's about as much teaser as we can get.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
So there's going to be
There's-
stuff.
there will be more information
There'll be
forthcoming.
pretty big prizes. There's going to be two
Yes.
categories of people that can, education and not, and stuff like that. But
Yes.
we can't really. We'll get back to you. When
I've
we
seen
can
some of
do
the
more
monetary
detail.
prize levels, and it's substantial. So it's
Yes.
worth keeping an eye open for, folks.
Correct. So,
And they will be posting the information sometime in December. So for the next few weeks, look at the Parallax site, and it will be there.
And I promise we will talk more about it because this is totally up my alley.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah, well, I think
think
Ken's gonna send you a kit so we could sort of like talk about
freaking
what all is in.
awesome.
And then I'm gonna make bagpipes out of it.
No, you're not.
No,
No, that's not
Yeah.
gonna happen.
shoot.
No
Okay.
bagpipes for Whisker.
Okay, now focus. All right, so quick question.
Mhm.
You went to AFK Tavern yesterday?
Yeah.
Yes. How was that? We
It
gotta
was pretty
gotta
awesome.
talk some random stuff too. Board
It was
games, I think, right?
it's like a restaurant bar that caters to geeks that want to play board games and
That is so
console
smart.
games. Like they have a table where they have a whole bunch of like SNES and Nintendo 64s and other consoles.
How
So you
do
can
they,
just sit there and plug in cartridges or discs and play games all evening.
how do you keep
Uh,
people from like putting crumbs into the?
well, they just sort of trust the people, I guess, because
I
you know.
guess nobody
Um,
steals like
I'm
the
sure they probably have
SNESs.
extra.
well,
You know.
they only. It's kind of interesting. There's only one entrance and exit, and they always have an employee there watching. So
Oh,
I'm
sure.
assuming they're trying to make sure people don't
They're
steal stuff.
pretending to
but
be a hostess, but they're really a ninja bouncer.
I see.
Yeah.
maybe I don't know. It's just we brought a bunch of our own games and
Mhm.
have a couple. They have like several really big tables. So you can have like 8, 10 people around and play big games. And like while we were there was another group playing D&D.
Mm-hmm.
And we were playing we played Cards Against Humanity, which is freaking hilarious,
Mm-hmm.
with 10 people. It's pretty crazy.
Nice.
Um,
The amount
and
of
then-
geekery is just
then we
exponential.
split up into two groups, and one group played Settlers of Catan, and the other group played Robo Rally.
Yep.
And
yep.
while we're doing all this, we're like ordered food, and they have like game themed food. So like you get a dragon.
Roy's
burger.
excited. You could tell his eyes are sparkling with the memories.
It was pretty awesome because we were like hanging out at a restaurant, and there's all these geeks playing different games and having
Dude,
fun.
we should do that when we
In our living
on
room.
our
Yeah.
no, but on our trip to Bellevue,
Oh, yeah.
we'll
Could go
towards
up.
the expo, which by the way, Ken, Chip, if you guys are listening, we are trying to amass a huge crowd. Like a huge crowd of non-prop people. It is going to be so ridiculously exciting. I am excited. Listeners, I
We're gonna have a
hope you
big
guys come.
convoy coming across the country.
Yes, and it's going to be so much fun. You guys have to
We're
come.
luring them
come and
into the lion's
see-
den. It's
Yes.
up to you guys to impress them.
Oh my gosh.
I think they will be impressed.
Now I'm
heard a little bit
sparkly-eyed.
I've heard a little bit about the
expo?
plans.
Oh,
Lauren,
are you able to say
Lauren
anything?
was. I can't say anything
Dang it.
because they're still working out the details.
All right.
But I
But
know
it's going to
why.
be much bigger than last year's, and last year's was pretty darn big and awesome.
Yeah.
So
Oh my
think
gosh.
about that.
I'm super excited because we are calling upon toy makers from everywhere. And I would love if the First Spin listeners were to come. You guys have
Yeah.
to come and say hi, okay?
We
Because
could do a first spin show there, and have
We got to meet a lot of you
listeners
guys
on asking
last year at the
questions.
expo. It was really fun.
oh, it was super fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Tons
like,
of people
if you
came up.
recognize our voices, come and ask. Totally short Asian chick, tall dudes everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I'm totally cool with that.
I had somebody come up to me in a crowd at the expo last year and said, "I recognize your voice." It's like, okay,
It's mildly creepy.
That's creepy,
no, I'm
dude,
just
but
kidding. Just
that's
kidding.
awesome.
Totally say hi.
Okay.
And we're totally excited. Okay. All right. Now
Okay.
announcements all done. I just
Yeah.
wanted to because AFK
I'm pretty
Tavern,
sure
that
you were
sounds
pretty
cool.
much trying to procrastinate because you know what's coming next.
Yeah. Addie spaghetti code.
Spaghetti code. Well, should we like go through the cursor and the bouncing ball first?
We might save that for another time because I kind of want to let you field some questions
All right.
about
Okay. So
this.
yes.
Now that
so,
we have you up in front of an audience.
So first, this past Wednesday we put up a video on YouTube showing some of the VGA things that we've been working on. And last week I think I talked about making a pet, like a little game Tamagotchi thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have now successfully made a working prototype. And
I'm looking at this code and I'm shaking my head.
It's bad, isn't it, Roy?
No, it's not that bad.
I mean,
terrible.
It's not that
like
bad.
It's functional, but oh my gosh.
And I wish I could show you guys, because at this point maybe I can show it. Maybe I'll put it on like our Tumblr or something.
It would be a good idea to show this to people, because it's like it works,
not that bad.
but it's way that it's laid out logically is terrible.
Why?
Yeah,
because it's doing things in a linear sequential fashion, which is the exact opposite approach that you should take when dealing with taking user input, taking video output, and then doing some sort of simulation code. Those should be,
especially on the prop,
3 different things. On a prop, it's like effortless to separate them.
No, but see, okay, so this is my problem. All right, let me explain let me first explain what this Tamagotchi thing does. All right, so far I'm calling it the Propopet. All right, I don't know, whatever. You guys come up with a better name. So what it does is it can be hungry, it can poo, and it can sleep. Yeah. And when you either feed it, clean it up, or let it sleep, you gain 5 experience points. And depending on how many experience points you have, the little character is either in a baby state, a young adult state, or an adult state, right? And it's like just ASCII, little emoticons.
Characters. Yeah, your little
Yeah. So in those
I
put
down here on the
in the DAT
section.
section. Correct. I put those in the DAT section.
So one thing that you could have done, just saying, to like interject here, right at the very beginning of the program, you have these text outs where you output things and then text out 13, and then you're doing. I guess those are all like you're writing out a bunch of numbers with.
So okay, this is the problem. So I tried to put these in different cogs. Like I tried to put a cog that would give me the points, the point systems, because what I would have is I'd have every, I don't know, clock cycle or however it's going, every time the code went through one iteration, it would increment like hunger by 2 points, poo by 3 points, sleep by 1 point, right? And if like hunger was above 75, then I would have the character show a hungry face. If poo was above 50, then I'd have it show the poo face. If sleep was above 100, I'd have it show a sleepy face, right? And so I would do that. Like I'd have that incrementation. Stop laughing. He's laughing at me.
I'm just reading more of this code and going, what?
Right? Okay. But I tried to put the code, the like text, or I try to keep track of these numbers, to see what I should be able to expect from the face of the little character.
Yeah.
In a different cog, right? So I try to do cog new, I don't know, numbers, and then I would do text out, text.dec for decimal, hunger, put a carriage return, poo, carriage return, sleep, carriage return, exp, carriage return, right?
Right.
You get that, right? So then when I put that into a different cog, like the screen blew up in my face, because like there were like different colors that came in.
Well,
like
it's probably
numbers
because you
were
had
showing
two cogs
areas.
trying to talk to the text out at the same time, right? So they were conflicting with each other.
You mean because, right? Because
so you were
I had
doing
my
text
character
out.
as text,
yeah,
and then I also had the numbers as text. But I see, that's the thing. I didn't know how else do you show those numbers and have your character change?
What you the place to break it up isn't to have like one cog displaying the numbers and one cog displaying the character. It's to have one cog drawing everything on the screen, including the numbers and the character.
Yes, this is what I've been telling her.
And then one cog doing the work to change the numbers and move the character around and all that stuff. So you have like one side of it is adding your hunger and poo or whatever, right? And deciding where the character is going to move around on the screen and moving its position. But then you have the other cog, the display cog, just reads those values and draws the screen over and over again. And that's all it does. And that's
So
the only, and then that cog is the only one that talks to the driver that does the screen, does the VGA output. Because if you have two different cogs talking to the VGA output at the same time, they're going to conflict with each other.
okay, so
And I created a little example to demonstrate this. We'll put it linked to the code in the description called bounce and
Right.
ball.
okay.
So the idea is, you want to break it up in ways that make sense for what you're doing. And usually when you're interfacing with some kind of external hardware one way or another, that's one of the things to break off is all of the stuff interfacing with that external piece of hardware goes in one place together. And then all of the stuff that's not that can go in another cog.
So, okay, the reason I hesitated on that was because there are 3 different things that I am having the character become, right? Or there's
Right.
3 different aspects. There's the EXP aspect, there's the status aspect, and
The more traits that you're dealing with, the more this makes sense to do it this way.
Right. It once you set it up, it seems like a little bit of work at first, but once it's set up, then you can add to it more easily, right? You could go change how it draws stuff however you want, and it won't break the game side of it that's actually doing all the logic. You could change, I want to change what the characters look like and draw them differently, and the game part will still keep working.
so
Or
okay.
you could add new gameplay stuff and get that all working and then go change the drawing code to update to include it, right?
So okay, let me say how I organize this.
Yeah,
as
we can.
Yeah. Okay, so the way I did it was if like Whisker said, it was linear, so linear comparisons, right?
Well,
So,
it's kind of weird. Like one of the first things you do in the pub main there, you print out all that stuff and then you do repeat one, which
oh,
means like
yeah, I could have just
you
taken
could have
that
just
out.
taken the repeat ones out and it would do the exact same thing.
I know. I just
I
it helps
explained
me.
this to her already.
It helped
Yeah,
me.
the other thing I don't understand is like in this code,
Mhm.
you have pre-main
Yeah.
and that calls main, but then main never calls anything.
Yeah, it does. It calls
Other
Hunger Pub and Standby Pub.
Well, yeah, it only calls Standby Pub and Hunger Pub, but
Right.
only once.
Correct.
And then your program's over.
No, and then it keeps going. That's where the spaghetti code starts, right? So let's
Okay.
let's go through this, okay? Let's go through this, and this might take a couple of episodes. I mean, this part will be okay.
I see. So you called.
Okay,
I get
shh,
it.
shh, shh, shh. Okay,
This
let's
is
talk.
gnarly.
Let's talk. All right, pub pre-main, right?
This code is crappy.
You shush. First start the text, like the VGA text thing.
Yeah, you
Pin
said
8,
everything.
right? Yeah. Text
And
out
you
00
initialize
is
your-
clearing the window. I start a
Right,
cog
and-
new to monitor the button because there's a 5-position joystick thing, right?
and
5-position switch.
You actually made a function to read that button, which
Yes,
is good.
right. Well, it
That was
originally
that you
wasn't.
did that correctly. Like reading the button all in a separate cog is good.
Yes. Well, I had to because there's no other way I could think of
That was
doing
the
it.
last thing she added.
It was.
This
Okay.
was after she'd been
All right.
educated.
Yep. Now, I initialize all of the character stats
Hunker,
to 0.
sleep. Yeah.
Okay, and then I start main. The main function. So first I show the text out, like I show the basic stats, which at that point should be 0. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then I increment, and then I I start my comparisons. So
You either
if the
go
character-
into standby or go into Hunger Pub.
right. So if the character's not hungry, then I go into standby pub where it just does like a run of the mill animation. If it's
So hold on.
hungry, then it does the hungry animation.
Right. And the thing you did there where you go, if hunger is less than or equal to 75, do standby pub.
Mm-hmm.
And then if hunger is greater than 75,
Mm-hmm.
do hunger pub. You
Mhm.
could have just done an else
Okay.
instead of if hunger is greater than 75, because if it's
Oh, I see.
not,
Okay.
if it's less than or equal to 75, it'll do one. And if it's not that,
Right.
then it's definitely going to be the other one. So you can just say else.
Right. So we'll scroll to standby pub, right? So
Right.
standby pub, I have it, doing.
It prints out
So
the
it prints
score
out the
again.
score again, right? And then I
Right.
have it analyzing to see what age it should be based on its
Right.
experience points.
I see.
And then I have it going into doing the animation, and that's where the repeat twice goes
It
into
plays 2 frames of outputting
the
one
face or
version of
whatever.
the thing and then the other version of the thing.
Right. And then I
Yeah.
go to main second. All right. But then
Right.
we'll go back to main to look at hunger pub. Right. So if it is hungry.
So hold on.
Yeah.
In this function, once you've gone to standby pub,
Yeah.
when it leaves, it goes to main second,
Correct.
which
Hunger pub also goes to.
okay.
So
And
once it's checked hunger, then it checks
understand.
poo,
So
and then
it
it
prints-
checks sleep. That's
so
why it's
that's-
linear like that.
Right, but it's also doing something really bad, which is you're calling into these functions and then calling into the next function.
Yeah.
And that's adding the return addresses to return back from those functions into the stack. And so your stack is getting bigger and bigger the longer your program runs, because you're never returning back from anywhere.
It's like a long spaghetti
You
needle.
mean it's supposed to return?
winding its way down into the bowl.
No, it does. It does go back to main after it checks.
No,
Okay,
but you call directly to it, and that's
Instead of
not the way to
returning.
get back to main.
Oh, I should put return at the very end.
Yeah.
There?
Well, see,
You
what
should
you
be returning
do,
from every single one of these functions as soon as you do them.
right. So what should happen is standby pub, instead of going into standby pub and then coming back from standby pub by calling into main second.
Yeah.
What it should do is return from standby pub
To
immediately
where?
back, and then in the code right here, after you do the check for hunger, whether it should do standby or hunger, you would have another if that would be like, should I do poo or not, right?
Oh, I see.
And then another if that should be if I do the next thing or not, and all of those should return back to here.
No,
and
but
then
if I go to main, then it'll increment again, and then it'll
Right.
go back into looking at hunger.
Right, but if you set up the repeat loops correctly in main, it will do all the steps that you have linearly going on here before you get back to the top of main where you add your score again, right? So your if you ran your program, eventually it would just crash because you fill up the stack.
No,
It will eventually.
it was fine.
It just takes some time. That's not fine. It's not fine at all.
The stack
bad.
overflows are nasty.
Well,
You have to be careful.
It will be really hard to figure out what's going on. So this is sort of a beginner mistake of you're thinking like, oh, I want to go from here to here, so I'm going to call that function and go over there.
right.
But you really don't want to do it that way. What you want to do is make a function that does something and then return back to where you came from. And where you came from in main, do the next check to decide what to do next. And have all your checks for what to do all in one place, and then just repeat over those.
But how do I have it return to main without and return to the middle of a section?
It will come
It
back
returns
from
back to wherever you sent it from. So,
Oh, I see. So
call
that's already
standby
automatic.
pub. Yeah, so when you call
Oh.
standby pub, when standby pub completes,
Yeah.
it gets to the end,
Yeah.
it goes back to the next line after standby pub
Oh.
in main.
Well, that makes it easier.
So you would just continue down. So you would do all the checks one after another to what thing to call,
I see.
and then just repeat that.
So I wasn't
forever.
sure. I wasn't sure that would happen.
But so, it's just a thing to learn that you hadn't gotten to yet. So now you understand you can go back and restructure this and make it a lot less spaghetti.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's the only time that we have for Eddie to learn this week. That's the only
Sad.
thing
There
Eddie's
are
going to
many
learn this
things.
week, and she'll probably forget it by next week. But we'll
No,
remind
I
her.
won't.
We'll be here to remind her.
I won't. It'll evolve. This Propopet will evolve.
Yeah.
It seems
We'll
like
make
it's a really good project for learning some of the structure stuff, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll be able to teach you some other techniques. Like
Correct.
instead of using a whole bunch of ifs, we can use cases.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can help you split it into the logical and
Cogs.
so display so that you can get it, split up into multiple cogs.
Can I just
Because
say,
because one of the things you're doing now is you're like redoing the same code over and over again to like print out the hunger.
right?
At least you should put that set of code in a function that you call to do it instead of repeating it everywhere.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. That's it for us for this week. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back next week. You can find this show every Tuesday evening at firstspin.tv. There's an RSS feed there if you want to automatically get the show on your phone, iTunes, whatever. That's it for us. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.